Hello, my name is David Lankes. I'm a professor at the School of Information Studies here in Syracuse, New York in the United States. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. Actually, right about now, I think I'm supposed to be flying from Europe back to the United States. It's very exciting. The Expect More World Tour that I'm on really shows that there is an international interest in rethinking libraries and librarianship, in moving beyond libraries as palaces of books and places we keep things to looking at them as knowledge hubs within the community, as engines to community improvement. And I think that's why I'm really excited at the fact that Expect More has been translated into Portuguese. I want to thank George and Adriana and the Brazilian Federation of Library Associations and the information scientists and institutions, and all those who are involved in making the translation possible. I think there's a really fabulous conversation going on about our future, and I think that future's bright, and I hope this will be an entry for you to be part of that conversation and to share what you're learning, what's going on in Brazil and elsewhere. Expect More is based around the premise that libraries can be a lot more than what communities have become accustomed to. They can be much more than just places and buildings. They can be much more than just books and quiet places to study. They really can be about community empowerment, about community learning, about a whole new way that libraries can push forward democracy, push forward community wealth, push forward a whole new aspect and better set of living for all the citizens and members. Be those members of an academy, a university, be those members of a township or a school or a business or a government. Doesn't matter. The big push behind Expect More is a simple question, at least a seemingly simple question. And that question is this: why? Why do we have libraries? Why do we need librarians? Why do librarians do what they do? A lot of the focus of our librarianship to this point is about how. How do we organize materials? How do we build buildings? How do we offer certain programs? A lot of hows, but unless we understand the whys, those hows may become out of date. They may not be useful. We really are looking at refreshing a look at librarianship by going back to the fundamentals, starting with why are we doing things, and then based on that, seeing if we should continue the services we've been offered or if we should offer a whole new suite of services. So why? Why do we have libraries? Well, some things is you can say we're a collective buying agent. A library can take taxes or tuition or money from lots of people, put it together and buy resources, collections, materials, databases we could never afford on our own. Some people say, in addition to that, they're stewards of cultural heritage, that we have libraries to preserve our past. We have libraries to preserve that is important to us. Our literature, our thinking, works of our authors, thinking of our academics, etc. Some people see it as a safety net. For those who can't afford access to books or materials or databases, a library can be there to provide access to all in an equitable fashion. I think those are true, but even below that, the way in which we seek to be a steward, to provide a safety net, why we're doing this is ultimately around the idea of community learning. We do this so that our communities improve. We do this so our communities get better, the lives of our members, be they faculty or students or citizens or businessmen or government officials, that they get better through knowledge, through learning, that libraries are inherently learning organizations. Now, that's not the commonly shared definition, hence the term expect more. Most people think, when they think of libraries, around something like this relatively traditional definition, that a library is a building or a room containing books and periodicals and sometimes films and recorded music. And that's about where they start. That's their expectation. When they walk into a library, they expect to find, well, stuff, books. But the problem with that definition is it doesn't really answer the why question. And not only does it not quite handle the why question, I think it really is rather constraining in the how. In other words, it doesn't talk about we're there for learning, we're there for improvement in the community, and the only hows is to collect stuff. The problem with this definition is too many things that we don't want to be a library meet this definition. This is a picture that's not uncommon in the United States, and perhaps you have it in Brazil as well. It's the famous book sale. We collect a bunch of used books and materials, and we put them in a big room, and people can come and rummage through and buy and sell them. But they're not organized particularly well. There's nothing going on here besides looking at the books and materials. There's not a lot of concern about learning and knowledge and cultural change or institutional knowledge. So this really isn't where we want to go. In fact, this is only one step removed from something like this picture. This is a gentleman who clearly likes his stuff and collects things, and it's a room full of books and materials and recording. But if you look at that picture for a moment, you notice in the background you suddenly see a desk and curtains and a light, and you suddenly go, oh my goodness, this is somebody's house. This is a pathological hoarder. This is a person with a mental condition where they have to collect stuff. They can't throw things away. And I don't think this is where we want to go. A library doesn't want to be, hoarding with better architecture. Because the next step, by the way, if this looks too clean, is this, right? We just throw piles of materials in. And we don't want that to be a library, right? A library shouldn't be a place of just dropping off books and stuff. It should be active. It should be proactive. It should make the community better. In many ways, a better model is, instead of a room full of recordings and materials, it's the public square. The public square in way too many countries that is closing. It's that place where anyone can come, from childhood to old age, from businessmen to scholars to government workers, to come and talk and relate. The problem with this definition of libraries as a room filled with books and recordings is not only does it capture things we don't want to consider a library, it ignores the things we probably do want to consider a library. This is a picture from a community college here in the States. And those are, in essence, different body parts that people can borrow. And why are they there? Because this college teaches medicine, it teaches nursing, it teaches healthcare. And so a library here isn't about books and materials, it's about arms and legs and circulatory systems. Or what about libraries that look like people? This is, in Europe, they call it the human library. We have some of them in the States as well. This, in fact, is a prejudice library, where you can go and check out people. Sometimes those people are organized by their expertise, a lawyer, a doctor, a professor. Sometimes, as in this case, you check out a prejudice. Have you ever talked to someone of a different religion? Have you talked to someone of a different race, different class, different neighborhood? The library provides a safe environment for people to come and talk about their differences and explore new things in new ways. A library is a safe place to explore dangerous ideas. And that's not necessarily done as a room full of books and recordings and music. Sometimes it's an open courtyard with people just talking. Or perhaps a library should look more like this. This is what a library looks like in the very northern tribal areas of Kenya. In Kenya, they're building as many public libraries as they can. And in the city, that means steel and glass and rooms. Where they can't get to through modern equipment, what they do is they actually have donkey carts that take materials and people out into their different communities. And when they're far north, they can't even get the donkeys out there. They load them onto camels, and they take camels to the tribal areas. And once a week or on a regular basis, they unload the camels, they set up tents, and there are materials, there are librarians, and that's where they teach people how to read. They teach people skills. They teach all these new ideas. And that's what a library looks to them. So this definition of a room full of books and materials, which is often what we use within the field, where we train people on how to maintain the books and materials or answer questions about them or something, it's insufficient. It's insufficient because it's a how definition. It's insufficient because it doesn't capture the true value of a library, which is learning and knowledge. And it doesn't capture the fact that learning and knowledge doesn't just happen from books and materials and things. It happens from people. And those people, that expertise, those conversations that we have don't just come from elsewhere, right? It's not just a matter of importing everything we know from the United States and providing that to people in Brazil. It's from our own community, capturing local knowledge. So back to that why question. Why do we have libraries? We have libraries so that our communities can learn, so that our communities can get better, so our communities can build new things. A library is a learning institution like a school, but without a curriculum. It's a school where the learners drive what they learn. What are the topics? How do they learn? What are their questions? And so the other why question I think we're going to want to get to is, why do we need librarians to do that? Because if the definition of a library isn't place with stuff, right? And the definition, therefore, of a librarian is someone who maintains that building and such. But if it's about learning, if a library is about community, if a library is about unleashing the community and achieving their goals and dreams through knowledge, then what is the mission of the librarian? What is their role here? Well, I argue that the mission of librarians is to improve society through facilitating knowledge creation in their communities. This is not the mission of a library. This is not the mission of an academic library or a public library or a school library. This is the mission of people, of an individual, of a profession, of you. And this mission doesn't change by the setting you're in, doesn't change by the library you're in, doesn't change by the country you're in. The mission of the library may change, but not of librarians. So the first thing to note about this mission is that it is of people, not institutions. For far too long, we have looked at the field of librarianship as training people to maintain, build, steward places. Places called libraries, places with library above the door, places with stacks and books and shelves. It's time that we change that. It's time that we define the field of librarianship by the people who conduct it, and realize that librarians may well work in libraries, but they may well work in government and schools and businesses and be just setting up their own library in the middle of the fields, in their own neighborhoods. It's about individuals. It's about what librarians do and the importance of librarians, not that we somehow maintain the important thing, which is the building or the books. We need to understand that the true value of libraries is not in its mortar and in its carpets and in its shelves, but in its people and in its communities that come together. And what do? We facilitate knowledge creation. And we have to understand that knowledge is not something that can be recorded. True knowledge exists only within our minds. It exists within people. And so yes, books and materials can help spark that knowledge. It can help us develop and have conversations about it. But the book itself is not knowledge. It's what we bring to it. And knowledge is created through conversations. Those conversations may be between two individuals, between groups, between two cultures and languages, or most of them within ourselves, where we, as we're reading, as we're encountering, as we're engaging, as we're thinking through a problem, work on our own conversations where we say, do we believe this? How am I going to do this? What am I doing? Those are the essential conversations. And so that means, of course, that if libraries are in the knowledge business, we're in the conversation business. How much conversation is supported within your libraries? Do you want a quiet environment where only internal conversations can occur? Or are you in a loud environment where people are constantly talking and arguing and thinking and figuring things out? Right? It's a community should determine that, not we as librarians. And that's the other part of this, is that we need to talk about how as librarians do we help this knowledge creation process? We facilitate it. What does that mean? Well, the first way that we facilitate knowledge creation is something we're all familiar with, access. We provide access to books and materials and things. But we also need to provide access to direct knowledge. That is, we need to provide access to people. Within your community, you have an amazing set of expertise in how that community works, in different professions, in different cultures, in different understanding. How much action do you provide? How much do you allow people within your community to connect to each other? To connect between the academy and the local community and the government and business and etc. How much do you connect people to people, not people to things? And access is two ways. How much do you provide a platform for people to share their knowledge and their expertise with the world? When I come to your library, and I'm coming from Syracuse, New York, and I come visit your library either in person or online, how much can I learn about the local community you reside within? Can I learn about local culture? Can I learn about local music? Can I learn about the best places to eat? Can I learn about who's the smartest person to talk to on topic X? Or is your entire collection, your entire library set up to teach the local community about what the rest of the world knows? It needs to be two-way. You need to unleash the potential of your communities to the rest of the world. We also do it by providing training or knowledge. That is, if you want to be part of this conversation, if you want to read this book, if you want to use this tool, you may need basic skills in language, in computer literacy, in all sorts of things. So we provide that as well. Librarians also provide a safe environment. Now, physical safety is part of it, but intellectual safety is a very large part of it. Once again, a library is a safe place to engage with dangerous ideas. How do we do that? We preserve the privacy of our community members. When they seek and access information, we don't broadcast that to the world. We provide access in an environment where they feel comfortable in learning and learning things in their own way. Do we teach people how to become lifelong learners so that after they're done with school, after they're outside of a formal university, they can continue to learn? And by the way, do we as librarians model that so that we are seen constantly learning and renewing and refreshing our skills? And lastly, we do it by providing motivation. That is, we understand why people seek this information, that they may be doing it for other people, they may be doing it for personal reward. So we provide a motivating and stimulating environment for them to access and build knowledge and conversations. And we always do this with the ultimate goal of improving society. We do this because it's based on our values. A value of learning, that is, that we believe in continuous lifelong learning, that we as librarians model it, and that we encourage it in our communities, even if, God forbid, they're a faculty member, we continue to learn. And so librarians help us to continue to do that. We do that in an area of openness. We as librarians believe that the best decisions are made in the richest information environments, with the most diverse sources of information, from books and journals to people and stories and video. Many libraries in the United States, academic and public, are building maker spaces with 3D printers and fabrication facilities. Why? Because people learn from things other than reading in books. They learn from their parents. They learn from elders. They learn from people down the neighborhood. They learn from people Skyping across the continents. And so we as libraries need to bring together any tool that is available for people to learn, not simply one and only one type of learning material, because we're in the learning business. We're not in the book business. We're not in the thing business. We're not in the building business. We're in the learning business. We bring a value of intellectual freedom and safety so that they can engage in ideas that they might feel reluctant to do if everyone knew what they were looking at. And we do it in an intellectually honest way. As librarians, we have a bias. For example, those values. We believe in privacy. We believe in a diverse set of information. That means we have a point of view. Whenever you're learning, you're in a conversation. That means that you are part of a conversation. You help shape the community that you are part of. You're not unbiased. You're not neutral. You're a professional, and professionals have points of view and bring those to their communities. So, once again, as a sort of end note here, we are in the learning business. You are in the learning business. Those buildings, those books, those internet connections, they're there to help your communities learn, but they're just tools. They're not why we're librarians. We don't build buildings so that we can admire our architecture. We build buildings so that people have a place to come and work together. Buildings, libraries used to be a place for us as librarians to do our work. Now, they're for our communities to come and do their work, learning, knowing, speaking, shaping. Librarians, in many cases, need to get out of their buildings. They need to be in those communities, in those classrooms, in those research labs, in those government agencies, seeing what the questions and problems and dreams and aspirations are, and helping to solve them on the ground. Libraries are platforms built by librarians, built and maintained by librarians for the community. Those platforms include materials, they include tools, they may include maker spaces, they may include tribal masks, they may include local music, they may include all of these things. But they're brought together in a mediated environment, in an environment where librarians have shaped that environment, have controlled that environment so people feel safe and they learn and they share. The true value of a library is in its ability to reflect its community. The true value of a library is not to bring the world to the doorstep of the community. It's to bring what the community knows and learns from that access back to the world. That's what we're talking about. And so ultimately the message of expect more, of new librarianship, of the work that I do and the work that you're discussing now, let's expect more of ourselves, our institutions, and our communities. If we settle for libraries being spaces and buildings of books and materials, that might serve some people. And it will serve some people for a relatively limited time. If, on the other hand, we look at librarians as people who empower communities to dream and to aspire and acquire new levels of achievement they never thought possible, if we expect more of libraries, librarians, and communities, we will achieve more than we could have ever expected. We have the opportunity now to make libraries central to the communities that we serve, be they universities, governments, localities, states, countries, businesses, it doesn't matter. Libraries can be an essential part of all of those because librarians are trained and active. They're activists out there, not saying, you need more librarians, but to say, look what we can do. We can help you achieve more. We can help you earn more. We can help you learn more. We can help you discover new things. We can help you govern better. We can help you be better. And we do that through learning. We do that through knowledge. We do that by improving society through facilitating knowledge creation in those communities. I hope that you can use this book and this materials and my writings as a beginning point for that conversation. I invite you, I hope that as you do it, as you engage, as you read, as you think, as you go to apply and you find difficulties or problems or disagreements, that you will open that part of that discussion up to me and my colleagues around the world. Brazil has an amazing opportunity before it. You have knowledge workers who are ready to unleash your capabilities. Don't sell yourself short. Don't expect too little. Don't define libraries what they've always been like. Libraries have existed for millennia not because they have stayed the same, but because every successive generation radically rethinks and radically changes the role, the method, the tools, but not the values of librarianship. It's our turn. I look forward to the conversation. Thank you very much for your time.